welcome back to Geeks and Grounds, a monthly game club and weekly podcast where we play games and brew good conversations together. I'm your host, Jenny Wyndham.
And I'm Joel Thomas. I'm num. I am all fulled up on this butterfly soup. It's tasty. It's fibrous. It gives me wings more so than Red Bull ever has. I'm floating right now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've never thought I'd say butterfly soup was what I was craving, but that is the dish for the summer, and what a good way to kick off June.
This summer's dish is butterfly soup.
Yeah, what's in season now. I am so excited to play this game, or not to play this game, to talk about this game, because playing it was an absolute delight. It was so much fun. Oh my gosh, I couldn't stop smiling when I was playing.
Like, catch me on the plane next to my partner, like nudging her every 5 minutes, like, this joke, check out this joke, this is so good. I'm like, oh, look at this moment, it's so good. I'm thrilled to be chatting about it. What a great selection to start off June.
Yes, so that's the perfect segue for folks who are new, or if you need a reminder, every month we usually play one game and talk about it together as a community. For June, it's summertime. I feel like everyone's a little bit in flux. We're going on holiday, we're taking vacations, we're traveling and doing all sorts of things, not at the computer or with our handheld platform of choice, which is great. So I thought, why not pick a series of one-shots to play over the month that we can enjoy much more casually. And I also themed it for Pride, because June is Pride Month, and it's like, why not pick only queer games to play this month? Because why not? And I'm especially excited. This is retroactively big brain moment of me. I didn't think of it at the time, and then now I'm like, I'm going to just say I did. Butterfly soup is the perfect segue between May, which is AAPI month, and June, which is Pride. So
galaxy brain, incredible.
Yeah, I just sometimes when the inspiration strikes, just kidding. It
the
didn't. I just got
synapses
very
are
lucky.
firing, Jenny. That's great.
I just got very lucky. So that was also like a little thing that I realized while we were playing it this past week. Like, what a perfect way to start June. Before we hop into our deep dive discussion of this game that encompasses just this episode, and next week we'll hop into another game. And actually, I'll just say those games out loud just so that we have additional reminders. This week we're playing Butterfly Soup 1 and discussing it. Next week's episode will be Butterfly Soup 2, which I have not played, and I'm very excited. The week after that, the third week of June, is Extreme Meat Punks Forever, and the final game for the month of June will be Serre. So those are the 4 games total for this month. You should be able to find Butterfly Soup, I believe, is only actually both the Butterfly Soups and Extreme Meat Punks Forever, I think, are all only found on itch.io. So you'll have to go there, but if you sign up for the newsletter, those links will be sent to you in the newsletter. So that's an easy way to also find those. And Serre can be found on Steam. Before talking about our game of the month, we're going to hop into the pastry case. This is our grab bag of topics across the industry. Maybe it's news, maybe it's showcase announcements, and it's also what we've been up to outside of the game of the week for this month. So, Joel, I am excited. We talked a little bit about this last week, but I wanted to reiterate the schedule because this is really like the big thing that's happening for the next week and a half, basically. And that is a bevy of summer showcases. Like, it's kind of extraordinary when you look at the breakdown because there are a lot. And actually, I put down, I think, most of the major ones. There are still other showcases that I did not list. So these are just some of the more maybe consumer-facing or the ones that I am privy to. I know that there are a handful of others that are not on here that are technically probably included.
I mean, I feel like there's some new ones this year, and like I feel like last year's list was really comprehensive, and I love the way you kind of curated for us some showcases that are like more geared towards specific tastes or demographics. It's kind of cool to see. I mean, at least my perception is that the list is even longer this year. Is something that you're observing as well?
It definitely is longer. And we talked about last week how I think last week I did list off most of these showcases. I don't remember if I listed off the times. Let me check the show notes from last week. I don't think I listed off the times. And so I wanted to be sure to reiterate these shows again and list off the times just because now we're actually in the week that they're going to happen. And I figure that's just a nice reminder. But yeah, there are more showcases. I'm especially excited by the ones that are regionally focused. Last year we had the Latin American Games Showcase. They're back again this year. David and the whole team do an incredible job, and I'm very excited for their showcase. The newcomers are Southeast Asian Games Showcase, which is curated by a few folks that are really wonderful people. I'm very excited for them. The Green Games Showcase, who I'm admittedly not as familiar with, but I think they're focusing on games that are about protecting the environment, or maybe the studios do things to protect the environment as they create and sell games. And then the Frosty Game Showcase, which I'm also very excited about, and that's Australian themed or Australian developed games. So we've got some really cool regionally focused showcases, which we're seeing more and more crop up. I was on Steam just last week, and there was also a French Direct showcase feature that was happening. I didn't watch the French Direct, but I saw they had like a demo page up. And that was cool because I was like, well, there we go. We got another, like, here are the French.
Let's go.
With, the French developed games. I'm going to be in Toronto in 2 weeks. I don't know what time is. I think next week, actually. Just kidding. I'll be in Toronto next week. And they're going to have the Toronto sort of games showcase happening. So it's really neat to see this prevalence of people focusing really locally and trying to amplify the developers in their area. So that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been kind of a fun game to see if I could guess what any of these showcases were going to be about. When I saw Green Games, my first thought was like, oh, like, this is obviously for, like, brand new studio, brand new developer games, like fresh like to the market. Yes, exactly. Frosty Games, I was so sure was going to be games that were all about abominable snowmen and snow women. And, that representation is important, but I also understand like Frosty for the Australian centered games makes a lot of sense to me as well.
Yeah. And for folks who may not understand, it is winter time in our summertime, so that's why it's the Frosty Games Fest. So they have the opposite seasons going on. So for folks who did not get it, that is why it's Frosty. I think it's so, like, that branding is perfect. I think it's so much fun. They have a nice little, like, froyo kind of ice cream mascot.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, Amy Potter is the lead organizer for it, and she's been doing an incredible job. I'm a huge fan of everything she does. And yeah, so that's super cool. I wanted to highlight, because that's just the Saturday, and it kicks off with Wholesome Games. I am disclosure. I have a vested interest in Wholesome Games for reasons, because I am one of the organizers. That kicks off at 9 a.m. We last for an hour. Everyone has like a 1 hour slot essentially, and women-led games goes next. Then Latin American Games at 11, Southeast Asian at noon, Green Games, Frosty. Frosty is the only one that diverges because of that time zone difference, and they're at 4 p.m. So you get a little bit of a break after the Green Games Showcase. I wanted to shout out as well, because that's just the Saturday lineup. We have Thursday, where the sort of Summer Game Fest proper is happening at 2 p.m. with Jeff Keighley. As we know, all sorts of big AAA type announcements, sort of the Hollywood-esque sort of extravaganza is going to be happening. And, as much as I am critical of it, there still is a pageantry that I will tune in and watch. I will tune in to see what's going on, even with my critiques of the showcase. And I hope every year that it improves. So that's the hope. And right after that at 4 p.m. is Day of the Devs, which is always a great time. They always curate and have usually less games featured, but they do more in-depth sort of creator interviews and sort of features on each studio. So I'm always excited to see what Day of the Devs does. And then to win the most question mark award, I think, of these showcases, we have Devolver Digital, which is coming back at 5 p.m. with what they call their showcase, Ball Pit, the Kenny Sun story. And I'm pretty sure Kenny Sun is a fictional developer that they've invented, and this is supposed to be a sort of digital documentary retrospective on this fictional developer. So we'll see what happens. I have no idea. I'm just excited because Devolver always takes us on a ride, and it's always very outlandish and fun.
I love me a good like mockumentary style event. It's one of my favorite formats. So,
yeah. Have you seen any of the other Devolver Digital showcases?
I don't think so, no.
Oh, man. Okay. They have this very elaborate lore, and they always do sort of this. It's like they have a universe that they have created with characters. I'll have to send you some of their preview showcases just because it's just so memorable every year. So definitely I'll send those to you because they're very fun to watch. And then to round it out, we have Sunday with the Xbox Showcase at 10 a.m., PC Gaming Show at noon. Those are always pretty solid. Like, we're going to get some good gameplay features. We're going to get some solid announcements. Monday, we'll be closing out with Black Voices in Gaming at 9 p.m. So that is a solid Thursday through Monday of announcements. We're going to get a lot of demos. We're going to get a lot of out nows. I'm trying to make a list of these are the games to look out for in June. And it's really hard because I know there are a lot of games that are going to be dropping on June 6th, 7th, 8th, right around then. So yeah, get your wallets ready.
Speaking of getting wallets ready, I'm going to need you to read the rest of the line after Sunday lineup Xbox Showcase /
The rest of the line. Oh, yes.
Is this a thing?
No. Sorry,
Okay.
I mixed it up. So for everyone,
Oh no!
sorry.
Oh no!
That was what is it? The Freudian slip where you wish for something and it's not it. Okay. Everyone, I just have to. I had to correct this before we actually said it out loud because I did not want to mislead you. Like I definitely misled Joel. That was heartbreaking. I'm so sorry.
I'm about to start crying.
I'm so sorry.
I got so excited.
So, in the show notes, I wrote Xbox Showcase / and this is the misinformation, do not trust this. I wrote / Outer Wilds 2 Direct at 10 a.m. Listeners, it is not the Outer Wilds Direct. It is the Outer Worlds Direct. I am so sorry. As soon as you asked me, I was like, oh no, I realized this mistake, and I apologize deeply.
My heart was just like...
That would have been
this
the
excited
announcement.
for
Yeah.
like a 2-word string of text in a long time.
No, you would absolutely know if it was the Outer Wilds Direct because we would be leading with that top of show for sure.
I was gonna say, I was like, you're really like burying the lead or like hiding this, and like you're gonna come back like, oh, and by the way, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna spoil the thunder here, but okay, no, it's
no. I'm so sorry.
I'm gonna go eat a whole pizza and journal for myself.
I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. Well, I'll send you a pint of ice cream to help you wash it all down. Yeah,
boy.
no, I apologize. Oh, heartbreaking. I do know that the team is working on, or I feel like I've seen an announcement, but I know I have at least heard somewhere down the grapevine that the team that made Outer Wilds is working on something else. So,
so cool.
I don't really care what they do.
Yeah,
I'm just excited for whatever happens. From
Talk
that
about
team.
a team that I just trust implicitly at this point. Wow. Okay.
So true. So after that letdown, wow, where do we go from here? Well, I guess I'll be going live on Twitch on Saturday after the Wholesome Games Showcase. If anyone wants to join, I haven't been live in quite literally, I think it's literally been a year since I've been live on Twitch. I've been live on like other places. I posted on other places. So this is me just like remembering how to stream, and I'm going to do so by bringing a bunch of snacks and watching all of the showcases after Wholesome Direct. So if any of you want to join me, you can find me on Twitch eating snacks and watching the showcase.
That sounds like a good day.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So the last bit of news, just as a reminder, not only do we feast with the announcements coming up, but the week of, I believe, June 9th through like the 14th, that week, is Steam Next Fest. So get your wish lists ready, get your demo downloading the fingers ready, because we are going to be playing demos the 9th through the 16th. We'll have a thread up. Put your recommendations in so Joel can play something good
Yeah,
that
I need
he
help,
enjoys.
as always.
I do have a demo to highlight, actually, to segue, because I actually did
Ooh.
play more than just the one game that I listed. So there is a game that I played the demo of called Consume Me. And this is a game that I have been looking forward to since maybe 2019, maybe 2018. I feel like it's been kind of a long time. It's kind of an absurdly long time. Just drop the link in the show notes if you wanted to check it out. So Consume Me is a game by a small team. I think maybe like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 5 people on the team. And it's about being a teenager in the summer, basically dealing with life and diet culture. And so for that reason, I will say, big content warning, and the game has it too. This is a game that is not for someone who may be sensitive to or maybe triggered into certain eating behaviors by mimicking those types of behaviors or thinking in a game, because it is super realistic in the sense of how they gamified it and some of the thought processes that happen. So that is my big warning. But I think this is maybe up for a Game of the Year contender if it does release this year. I have a feeling it's going to release this year. It just says coming soon. And this game is so funny, and it deals with this topic in such a human and relatable way that I just am so impressed by the developers with how honest they were and how they really put themselves out there. Because when you play it, I think you can feel like this could not be told if they were not being truly honest about what it felt like to be a teenager, thinking that your life really sucked and you had to study during the summer and you had to find a swimsuit to go to a beach party with your crush, but you felt really insecure about your body and you only had a week to like try and, you know, lose weight. And it's those struggles that they just captured really perfectly. And the art is very funny. It's kind of like paint doodles, but really good. I don't know how to describe it.
It kind of reminded me of Venba. I think I actually watched you talking about this on TikTok or Instagram or something. I was like, this looks really, really cool. Like the color palette and like design kind of reminds me of like the Venba style.
Yep.
I will say, and I don't know if you've felt like this trend is kind of coming up more as well, but it has felt like, especially in the last like year or two, we're seeing more and more media kind of tackling diet culture, especially like diet culture as it existed in the 90s. I am like wondering and almost a little bit hopeful that that is because we're also seeing kind of the like thin as in like low rise stuff from the early 2000s is like fashion trends starting to kind of like rear their ugly heads again. And I mean, it would be such a cool cultural thing if like our stories and media were actively trying to stand against some of this stuff. And I don't know, that maybe this is like one of those moments.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, again, this game has been in development for, I think, about 9 or 10 years. So this is a long time coming. But I think there is something to be said where a lot of the media is made by people who were teens in the 90s and early 2000s. And that Thin is in, like, sort of that first wave that we remember, at least, of that Thin is in mentality in pop culture. And so, like, I know in my creative pursuits and these kind of games, it's like, we grew up with that, and so of course it would crop up somehow in the media that we're creating or the art that we create. And I think especially because we are seeing more people who normally weren't in games, so like women, just I think the team is Asian, like of the Asian diaspora. I don't know if all of them are from the same places, but I feel like this game is very specific in the ways that Venba was specific, where it's like, this is a story that I told because I grew up in this way or I grew up with this experience. And like Consume Me is very similar. And I think having more people come into gaming and telling those stories that are very specific and of an experience that probably doesn't predominantly happen to like the people who have traditionally dominated storytelling in games is definitely making a difference too. But
Cool.
yeah, I just love the game. And I guess to talk about how it plays, think like slice of life. You go through each day with your tasks that you have to do, and each of the tasks are kind of a mini game, WarioWare style, if you're familiar with WarioWare. So like you have to fold your laundry at this time of day, so you fold your laundry, and then you go to the store. You decide whether to pick up a snack. Then you have to study, and you're like clicking to try and focus on the book, but like thoughts, come and try to like distract you.
Wow.
So there are a lot of these fun little mini games that capture the essence of these activities that you do as a teenager, and it's got so much personality and humor and heart and truth to it. I can't recommend it highly enough.
That's so cool. I'm thrilled to give it a spin. So the demo's out now. That's what
The demo's out now.
Cool.
Yeah. And I imagine what's happening now is a lot of developers realizing how saturated Steam Next Fest is, are releasing their demos a couple weeks ahead of time to like get ahead of that, which is a boon and a curse, right? Because now we have a bunch of demos and it kind of extends that period, but it is nice because now I can recommend for, our quote Steam Next Fest. This is one of the demos that I believe will be part of the Next Fest based on the timing of this demo release. So if you need something to get started with, Consume Me is a great one to kick off with.
Excellent. What else have you been playing?
Really, the only thing I've been doing other than work is playing Power Wash Sim because it requires no thought whatsoever.
So it tells me a lot about how work is going right now when this is your downtime activity.
Yep. Let me just turn my brain off and clean vehicles. I was cleaning a helicopter last night. I was like, I don't even like helicopters, but this is bringing me so much inner peace. So yeah, Power Wash Sim is my go-to when I really can't can't even think enough to play a game. And I really want to play Fantasy Life, and I really want to play Expedition 33. I'm still in Act 1 because I'm taking so long, but I just this week needed a little bit of a break.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah. What about you? What have you been up to?
Well, I just an hour ago got in from a long weekend in Los Angeles. My first time going there really and spending any amount of time.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, I had literally except for catching flights at LAX and layovers, I've never been. So it was really, really fun. I was there because I won the $30 tickets to see Dimension 20's Fantasy High Rumble in the Chungle, which was absolutely incredible. I will not give any spoilers because it will come onto the Dropout app, and they explicitly asked us not to. But what I will say is, I was there, June 1st was the show, and there was something about them literally sitting down and saying Happy Pride, and the entire theater just erupting in cheers. I don't know. There's something about being in a place where you feel so fully a part of the group. These are my people. We have similar shared values. We have similar interests. And I just wonder what would have been for middle school or high school Joel to have had access to that type of community around the things that he liked. So yeah, I don't know. Just it was a really, really great experience. Very, very fun. So that was my whole weekend. Long weekend was essentially a wash because of that. But I did pick up Mistborn: A Secret History, kind of a little short novella from our boy Brando Sando. I had a lot of questions after coming out of Wind and Truth, specifically about the Ghost Bloods. And if you also had questions about that group, this is a good book to maybe answer some of those. So I'm about halfway through, really enjoying it. It's the classic, but had a good time.
Really is. Yeah. I guess I've been listening to the audiobook of Way of Kings, which I almost don't even count anymore because I've listened to it so many times. It's kind of like it is a comfort listen at this point. But I've been listening to it as I go on my morning runs. And what's really funny is I've never thought about this, but it's very weird to be running when he talks about Bridge 4 going on their bridge runs. For folks who haven't read, there is a character in the book who basically goes through this like really agonizing runs where he and these other essentially like enslaved people have to hold this heavy bridge on their shoulders, like it's wood, and run across the desert for miles and miles and miles, and they're very mistreated. And I'm running and I'm doing my cozy jog pace and I'm running uphill, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is still really hard, running uphill. And in the book, the audiobook reader is like, and Kaladin felt the blood of the, dripping down his shoulders because this bridge was so heavy. And I was like, oh, I guess I can keep going. This is not that bad, I guess.
I think
it's just a weird dissonance there.
We'll just drop off like a 2x4 your place that you can start carrying on your shoulders as you run, just like real bridge training.
You know what we should do? Okay, you know how they have the Lord of the Rings running app or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
We should, this is so horrible, but we should be like, here's the Brandon Sanderson Bridge 4 training app. We'll send a 30-foot bridge to your house that you can carry with your friends while you all train and run for your next 5K? I don't know.
Oh, God.
We'll have the 5K plan, the half mile, and the marathon, or half marathon and marathon plans. Mm-hmm. Brandon Sanderson, have your people call us. I think we got something here.
Next week, Geeks and Grounds gets canceled.
Yeah.
It's been a really great run.
First the pirate accents, and then this. Jeez Louise, what's going on?
Oh, so good. So good. I will just say, as a final plug, as the main baddie for this like Dimension 20 thing is Chungle Down Bim, who is from the pirate city of Leviathan. So the pirate voices were running rampant, and it was like everything.
Oh my gosh!
You're obviously like strongly discouraged from recording. So I was like, I can't send this to the Geeks and Grounds group. But just imagine a stage full of pirate accents, and it's like you're there.
Just go back one episode and listen to our pirate accents.
And you can say to yourself, why aren't Jenny and Joel on stage with these guys doing pirate accents? They're good enough. They're
Brendan Lee Mulligan. This is the second time we'll be canceled this episode. First by Brandon Sanderson, then personally by Brendan Lee Mulligan. I'm sorry in advance. Oh my goodness.
Oh man, we're making an enemy of so many fandoms today.
I know.
So many fandoms.
All right. Well, just to transition us out of the pastry case so we don't make any more enemies, we've got notable releases this week. I always like to highlight just a couple just to whet your palate, see what's going on outside of the game of the month or games of the month. And y'all, we've been talking about it in Discord already, but Deltarune chapters 3 and 4 coming out on the 4th. I did not take the day off of work, but honestly, everyone at work is slacking in Slack right now, and everyone's like, anyone else taking the day off? And everyone's like, no, but I'm gonna play it as soon as we're done. Like, maybe we all should just take the day off.
Yeah. They can't stop all of you.
I know, right? So yeah, I'm so excited for June 4th to hit and just to play to my heart's content. The only conundrum I'm going to have is I have not yet finished Expedition 33.
I was just going to say RIP Expedition 33. Like, we all know where Jenny's heart lies.
Yeah, it's going to be rough, but we continue, and I will find a way.
I can't wait to hear what you think about it. I know that you've really been looking forward to this for such a long time, and there's such a rich story and world, so I'm eager for it to come out.
Well, and actually, this is much earlier than we normally announce. Well, I guess no, because we've announced all the community selections, so there we go. But at least for curated selections, I wanted to share just ahead of time for anyone else who's excited about Deltarune. We will be playing that for the month of July. So I mentioned last week.
Shocking!
That's a very good surprise.
Face.
Yeah, it's a good surprise face, Joel. I shared this with the folks who are at the hangout this weekend. Also, shout out to everyone who showed up. That was really fun. But July is my birthday. Honestly, can we just take a moment and say the trifecta of May being AAPI month, June being Pride, and then July being my birthday? It's kind of like somebody needs to stop me because
Stop me.
Yeah, it's like the 3 months have just given me too much power. And with that power, I have decided to make Deltarune our July selection. So
with great power comes great responsibility. It feels like you're doing the right thing.
yeah, I feel like I'm wielding this power very responsibly.
Yeah.
So we're going to be playing Deltarune chapters 3 and 4 for July. So if you are playing it in June, take those notes, like log those questions. I might just put up the thread early, who knows, just so that we can start chatting about it and have our thoughts gathered for the month. But yeah, just wanted to highlight that. And then to close us out, June 5th has a game called Parallel Experiment launching. Now, this one is really interesting. There's a demo. I have not played it yet. What intrigued me, it's a 2-player co-op puzzle game where each player has only one half of the puzzle. I love these kind of games.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So it's not shared screen, right? Like you'd be each be playing on your own screen, like over the interwebs. Got it.
Yes, I believe you are each playing on your own screen. You are each being shown different things.
Cool.
They say that there are over 80 puzzles that you must work through together through the duration of the game. Yeah, and I love that kind of premise. I'm not a huge multiplayer fan, but I am a huge like asynchronous puzzle co-op fan. So very excited for this. The premise, I'm okay with. It's there for the puzzles. It's the vehicle which the puzzles will come through. The Steam page says 2 detectives, 1 deadly experiment, a race against time. It seems like maybe Saw meets asynchronous co-op puzzle adventure. I don't know. But yeah, just if you're into co-op puzzle games, there is one for you. So, as always, feel free to go to geeksandgrounds.com to sign up for the newsletter. That's where links to everything we talked about will be, as well as links to the full podcast. If you're listening to this on Spotify or iTunes or on YouTube, the newsletter is a great way to avoid the algorithms and get this in your inbox so you don't miss a beat. And with that, let's fly on over to this month's or this week's brew. Sorry, because it's just a week.
Let's slurp the brew of soup. I'm going to start doing ASMR. This is my sign.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Pirate accents and slurping noises.
Yeah, that's very specific channel, but you know what? There's a niche for everything.
Oh boy. Okay, so for this month, we're doing a series of one-shots, and for this week, we're specifically talking about butterfly soup.
Yes.
And generally, the idea is we're going to just kind of give a very high-level overview of the game, and then we will say, like, okay, now it's time for spoilies, so that you can listen to the beginning and then come back to the episode after you've had a chance to play.
Yeah.
How did you stumble across this game, first of all?
I genuinely do not remember. I've had it in my Steam catalog for so many years. I got it around 2018, I feel like. So not right when it launched, but maybe relatively shortly after. And I remember playing it and really liking it, but it's also been, a very long time since I played it. And when I was going through games that I thought would be really good for one shot specifically, this one popped up, and from what I could remember, I thought it would be a really great game. What really worked out extra well is we have recently played another teen coming of age queer kind of narrative game. And so then I was thinking, all right, it's going to be kind of cool to juxtapose these two and see how they work together and see what they do great, both maybe where one succeeds while the other maybe needs a little bit more work and vice versa. So, yeah. Had you heard of this game prior to Geeks and Grounds?
No, it was completely fresh for me. I hadn't heard of it. And, I basically, once you told me that this was the game we were going to be playing, I was like, okay, I'm not going to read anything about it. We did talk about like wanting to make sure we're highlighting queer games and kind of these queer romance stories. It's just, I think, was it last summer we did Queer Man Peering at a Rock? It was the year before that.
That was 2 years ago. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
What is time
I
anymore?
think that was season one.
Of Geeks and Grounds. And it's interesting because we were coming off of Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, and one of our big criticisms was we didn't actually need the horror suspense story, like the story of these girls and how they become friends and the romances that are budding between them. Maybe could be a game all on its own. And I just point in case in point, whatever the expression is, like, my God, this game has been incredible to play. Like, I giggled, I got a little teary at a couple moments. Like, what a game. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Did you want to give like a high level summary, I guess, of what the game entails and like just sort of the arc of the game?
Yeah, so essentially as the game opens up, you are playing as one of two girls, Diya or Menseo, or I think Min for short, and you're kind of learning about their friendship as children, and then you have kind of a game that hops between times. You're kind of, for the most part, using Diya as a focal point, jumping between these kind of early elementary years to like ninth grade high school years. As you are following her, you meet a few other girls. They are, I wrote all of their names down, I'm trying to be good, Akarsha and Noelle. And you kind of get to experience all four of these young people, their perspectives, their lives. You get a little bit of their flashbacks to this like early elementary period. You get to see what they're curious about, what they're frustrated by in their kind of ninth grade years. You have romance, you have arch nemesis, you have friendship, you have pranks. It is like, it also just feels like such an authentic expression of that youthful, like ninth grade, like silly energy time. What else would you highlight as you like kind of talk big picture about the game?
I think you did a really great job of channeling like all of the core feelings and emotions and themes. I think the one thing I don't think you highlighted was the fact that also this game does feature baseball, which is something that I remember being skeptical that a game that was about baseball would ever intrigue me, because out of all the sports, it's one of the sports I enjoy watching the least. And so a game a game about baseball where the characters are all playing baseball, that's how I think it was pitched to me initially.
You're on fire today.
But it was initially, pitched to me as a game about queer coming of age with baseball. And honestly, I was like, the baseball? Ugh, I don't know. The baseball, it's all just a metaphor. The baseball's a metaphor, y'all. I mean, they're actually playing baseball, but if you don't like sports, if you don't like baseball, I would say don't let that deter you from playing this game. You will do yourself a disservice if you miss out on the story that this game has to offer.
Yeah, the baseball was such a the fact that you had to remind me of that, I think, is a good way to underline that this is not a baseball sim. You don't need to have any baseball knowledge. You just some of the girls are interested in it. It is kind of how some of the friends are made and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's the sort of the catalyst maybe in some ways, or sort of the place where these things happen, but it's definitely not the core of the game.
A quick correction. It's Akarsha. I literally wrote it wrong in my notes every single time that I wrote it. I am now flipping through, which is funny because dyslexia comes up as a topic in this, this game.
You mean dystopia?
Oh.
That line. There's so many lines that are so good. I had to write a note for myself because I kept calling Diya in my head, and they even make that note.
Then they
of
make
like,
a joke about it. Yeah,
they're just like, oh, the substitute teachers always call you Diya. And I'm like, oh, I got to write the note so I don't mispronounce her name. And so, yeah, I appreciate it because in a lot of subtle ways, they also provided us the way to pronounce the characters' names, which was really helpful for me as a person who usually reads something differently in my head than I realize is actually pronounced later. So that was very cool. I guess any additional non-spoiler thoughts before we just jump into the game itself, go through it, and really, really deep dive?
I would say like it was about 3-ish hours, 3.5 hours to get through. There's not many game mechanics, right? You're clicking through dialogue and like watching the story unfold.
Sort of a more pure visual novel than anything else.
And so I actually would suggest, like, if you have not yet played it, stop listening. Go play the game. I think you will thoroughly enjoy it. There's some really cute and meaningful plot points that I think are better experienced in real time than to have us kind of talk about it. So I'd suggest play the game, then come back.
Yeah, definitely. And we have this in the notes for the game, but I do want to flag, just in case you aren't subscribed to the newsletter or you haven't seen the playthrough guide for the game, there is like light content notes for homophobia in this. Specifically, let me bring up the playthrough guide and the notes just so that I actually say everything correctly. Dum 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 dum. Which I guess I can say, if you go to geeksandgrounds.com, you can find the playthrough guides with notes and content warnings on every game. Okay, so these are the notes that the developer left. There are brief written depictions of parental, emotional, and physical abuse, no visuals, ableist slurs, and homophobia. So those are some of the things that you may encounter. Again, just to give you a heads up, if you haven't played it yet, just know to expect some of that. All right, so spoiler time. Let's get into it.
Oh, okay. We open on a playground. A group of children are playing. It's where we first meet kind of two of our main characters, Min and Diya, and we are watching them play, like, rescue the princess, like just kids in their imagination. Like for me in this age is like 2nd, 3rd grade. You would have found me playing Power Rangers. I would have been calling the Dragon Zord and jumping off of the jungle gym to get on his back. Y'all get it. And you get what I would consider one of the most like everyone knows this kid characters I have ever seen in video games. As they're trying to play this game of imagination where they're like rescuing the princess from this dragon or whatever, Min, who is like this rambunctious, like, it's like the Toy Story, like, oh, I have a dinosaur that eats force field dogs. It's like that energy as they're talking about like rescuing the princess. And like Min is actively trying to change who is playing which characters, like who's the monster, who's the princess, so that her friend Diya can be the princess and she can rescue her. And it is so adorable.
It's so cute. And it's really funny also because you see like the kids start by arguing because Min wants to be the hero, but one of their friends is like, no, your brother needs to be the hero. Jun needs to be the hero. And Min gets so mad. So you immediately know she's rambunctious. She's a little aggro, but she knows what she wants and she's going to find a way to get it. And so I think that's incredible. Min, they become the hero, and then Diya is then the princess, and we get a little dialogue that characterizes Diya a little bit more because she says something along the lines of, oh, well, I guess since I'm the only other girl, that means I need to be the princess. And so for me, that was an immediate contrast to Min, who knows what she wants, goes and gets it. And then Diya, who's like, well, I mean, this is kind of what's expected, so I need to make sure I fit into that expectation somehow. I loved the so they start fighting the evil dragon, and I think what you were referring to was the gun with the knife that shoots out.
The gun that shoots guns that shoots knives.
It's so funny. I took a screenshot of it because I was like, this is the funniest thing. Made me laugh out loud.
Mm-hmm.
And then when asked, like, what the heck, why did you even do it like this? And then another character says, like, well, now I have a gun. And I think Min is the one who says, well, this is America. Everyone has a gun. And I'm just like, okay, this already, this game has sold me. It's good.
Fully agree. And like you start to understand that the reason Min is pushing for this is they're reenacting Sleeping Beauty, where Prince Charming wakes her up with a kiss. And so Min is kind of like subtly trying to angle for that kiss. Like, God, it's just like such a, like, the way kids think about things moment.
Cute. Yeah. And so, Min, I think, rescues the princess, Diya, and then they get in the slide to, do the rescue. And just as about Min, I think, just is about to ask for the kiss when they kind of fall or slip out of the slide, face plant, and womp. Time to move on to the next sort of memory.
Yes. And like, for me, it's like Min over everything. Like, this has become immediately one of my favorite characters in games. Like, I am just like, I was immediately drawn to them. And like, I feel like there's so much, I would say, subtlety in this scene that they really unpack as we learn more about this character as we move forward in time. And like you mentioned, kind of the aggro nature, like, we're going to learn about that, and like them not wanting to like fit into these tightly formed boxes. We're going to learn about that. It's just like, it was almost like if this were a book and this were the prologue, it was like the perfect prologue. It helps you understand Min. It helps you understand a bit about Diya. Like, Diya's a little bit more reserved, a little bit quieter, and we're gonna like learn more about that as we get into it. It's just such a perfect opening to a game.
Yeah, it really is. And so we switch over to a baseball game because the three of them, we have Jun, Min, and Diya. They're at a baseball game. I think Jun and Min's dad have taken them for like this fun outing. And we just get to have an opportunity to learn a little bit more about their dynamics. We learn about their interest in baseball. They talk a little about school. And at the end of the scene, there's a big reveal. But before it, one of the favorite things I learned about Diya and Min, sort of as well, is Diya loves animals. Diya is like obsessed. If there's a dog, she wants to pet it. Relatable. Same.
Totally understandable.
What I loved is seeing how when Diya is struggling to vocalize what she wants, you again see a reinforcement of Min seeing that not just for herself but her friends, and being willing to step in and say like, hey, can we pet your dog? Now again, Min goes about it in a real aggro way and says, if you don't, I'll kill you. And then fortunately Diya interrupts and says, no, they already agreed, we can pet the dog, you don't have to resort to violence. But again, it's this reinforcement of each of their characters in these really fun ways.
Yeah. And it's interesting because like this thing where Min speaks on behalf of Diya happens here. You kind of start to see this theme happen a lot, that like something is going on with Diya that she's very uncomfortable with speaking out. Not even like, doesn't necessarily have to be adults or teachers or whatever.
Yeah.
It seems like unless she's already kind of in a very trusting and like relationship with the people that she's talking to, she has a really hard time expressing herself.
Yeah, I wrote down a line that she said specifically because they were talking about sort of these Asian stereotypes of having to grow up to be a doctor or an engineer, and they're talking about initially like, oh, I'm not going to play baseball. I'm not going to be doing this because I have these other jobs that I'm expected to do. And Diya actually says, disappointing my parents is my worst fear, which is an interesting like worst fear to mention as an elementary school kid.
Yeah.
I feel like that's really early to be vocalizing that specifically. And then Minso calls that out immediately. Like, she instantly says, you should be able to do what you want. You should be able to say how you feel. It's their fault as parents if you're not able to do that, which is
Yes.
very astute for a kid her age. Like, incredible.
Min sees things extremely clearly, and I think especially with like parent relationship dynamics, and we're going to see this
Yeah.
all throughout this chapter of the game, but
Yeah.
it's incredible to me to watch a character that goes from this like high intensity, high energy person to like applying all of that energy into being like, your parents not creating a safe space for you to be you is their problem. Like, whoa, that's like such an incredible realization to have in like third grade. I was stunned.
Amazing. We get also two other cute moments I wanted to highlight. The first is when Min is teaching, so they're teaching each other their languages. So
I have questions for you about this scene specifically.
So, okay, I wrote down notes. I took notes because I wanted to just sort of make sure I didn't mix this up. I looked it up online, and as far as I know, this is correct. If anyone who is a fan of the game and knows differently, let me know. But for the four main characters, we have Min, she, they pronouns. Min is Korean. Diya uses she, her pronouns and is Indian, but is from a region that speaks Tamil. Akarsha uses she, her pronouns, also is Indian, but is from a different region than Diya and speaks Hindu. And Noelle, she, her, is Taiwanese. So just to give a little bit of context of the backgrounds of each of the characters that we're going to be interacting with. Min, being Korean, is teaching Diya some Korean, and Diya, in exchange, is, I believe, teaching Min some Tamil. And in the game, they don't translate this, which is so fun, but the phrase that Min says is a special kind of hello meant for only Min, actually is saranghe, which is I love you.
So you knew from the beginning what the phrase was? I didn't learn until the very end of this chapter what it was. Like, you know that they're not using the words, like they're not teaching each other how to say hello, right? Like, you're playing as Diya in this scene, and like you get to actually choose if you teach Min to say hello or something else. I chose the something else, which is something like I like farts or something like that. So like, you know that I chose to do the joke, right? And so you're assuming that Min has as well, but because I don't speak any Korean, I had no idea what the expression was. And I was curious how this affected your playthrough, that like I assumed you would know what this was. Like, how did you feel reading that?
I mean, you kind of know as a player, like, especially with this kind of game that isn't an angsty, like, this game is not meant to be the angsty, tortured love type of game. This is meant to be a lighthearted, like, charming, delightful game about young love. And so, I already had a feeling Min and Diya would get together.
Oh, yeah.
But seeing the saranghe, just like... oh, it made my heart so warm, and I couldn't, like, my cheeks hurt because I'm like, look at you. Min has a smooth game, honestly, for all of their, like...
for as brash as they are, like, it's wild.
Like, the move with the slide and the teaching Diya to say, I love you, and stuff that happens later. I'm like, Min is an absolute player. Like, what the heck?
We just need to see like the Kabe Don, like hand against the wall thing. That's all we're missing at this point.
Honestly. And we get a reference to that later. So.
Oh, I must have missed that.
Oh my gosh. Man. Yeah, we get a mini reference. It's not when Min is interacting with Diya, but another character. And it's so funny because, no, and that's the vibe. Min has got it, you know?
Yeah. So a couple of like important things before the big reveal. You learned that Diya has a best friend at school named Noelle. We don't see Noelle at all during these opening chapters, but we know that Noelle and Min do not like each other. They like hate each other. Yeah. And Diya's not doing any sort of work to try and smooth things over, which is also like, you know, good for Diya. Like, let's let them work that out.
Yeah.
But like, I think that's important context as we kind of move forward. It's also interesting with the characterization. Like, we talked a little bit about this, but Min has a really short haircut, like dresses like in not like the most like gender conforming, like girly way. And so you mentioned at the top, like she, they pronouns, like we're going to be experiencing kind of just the smallest taste of this throughout this chapter. But like, There's definitely some like gender identity experiences like happening with men, and it just feels like if you're like, especially once you know for sure that that's what's going on, there's so many like subtle expressions of that throughout that I just thought was just incredibly well done.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think just as a whole with this game, while the characters are going through moments of exploring their sexuality, exploring their gender identity, it's like that's not what this is about. Like
Yeah, they're
that's
just
a
like
component
kids.
about it. But yeah, they're kids just
Ugh.
doing kid daily life things. And I think for me that's what made this really, really special. Little mini Korean reference that I saw it and I was like, oh my God. Min makes a comment about Noelle and is like, Noelle isn't as good of a friend as me because Noelle probably wouldn't get the white like pith off of the oranges if she peeled them for you. I would get like the little white stuff off of the oranges if I peeled them for you. And it's funny because Dia's like, what does peeling oranges have to do with anything? But for like growing up, my mom was like, peeling oranges, peeling apples, like having that fruit ready is such a big part of just showing your care for and love for someone. So I thought that was just like a really cool. I've never seen that in a game, and I was just like, "Oh, wow,
That's
that's
so
really neat."
cool.
Yeah.
And what's also interesting is like Dia has apparently lied to her parents and said that she's at Noelle's.
Yeah.
And so like Dia's parents don't like men. Like there's something here. Like, is men a bad influence according to their parents? Like,
Yeah.
there's just you get the undercurrents that like there's a lot going on with this character.
Yes. Last detail before the big reveal, they also talk about why the girls or these kids are more interested in soft or baseball rather than softball. And one of the reasons provided is that men's hands are too tiny for softballs because softballs are just way bigger than baseballs. And again, thinking about this idea of wanting to participate in baseball, which is, from my understanding, always a men's sport. I actually never thought about that until this game, really, that men only play baseball and women play softball in the
After a certain
US.
age, yeah,
Yeah,
for
after a
sure.
certain age. I just being a non-sports and non-baseball or softball person, I didn't really ever think about that. And so this game highlights that in this moment. And that's another example of baseball being this metaphor for like the boxes that we put people in and where we feel like they should belong, and men's resistance and logic as to why they don't belong in that other space. So I thought that was really cool.
Also, another very smooth moment where Min is like, "Put up your hand," and then Min puts her hand in Dia's to show that it's much
Let's
smaller.
go, man. Let's
Oh my
go.
god! Just the game is incredible.
So good.
Yeah, so this and June is there as well, right? So like you get a few interactions
Yes.
with June, and it's actually in that interaction that you learn. Oh, sorry. Before we learn about the big twist, one other very cute moment is they're talking about their future together and how like uh,
Yeah.
they're watching. They're at a baseball game, right? Basically, Min explains that like they're going to learn a knuckleball, which is a notoriously very difficult way to pitch the ball in baseball. And Dia is a catcher, and so they're gonna like learn to throw this ball just so that Dia can catch it. And I thought that was like such a like
So cute.
like, well, I'm gonna throw a ball that only you can catch. It's
I
like
know. Oh,
so good.
how adorable are these two? I love them.
Until the heartbreak.
Until the heartbreak. Lead us to the heartbreak, Joel.
In conversation with June, he lets slip to Dia that they are moving not in a long time from now. They are moving tomorrow to Florida from California, which is
Oof.
where this is all set. So I think they're
Yeah.
at the Oakland A's game. So if you're looking for like generally where you are, like West Coast, this is about as far away as you can be in the States and still be in the country.
Yep.
So absolutely, like I didn't know what to expect from this game, but once we introduced these characters, I was like, oh, we're gonna watch like throughout the years how their friendship grows, and that is not this game.
No, it is not. Oh my gosh. And you get this really sad moment of them talking through, like, what is this going to mean for our friendship? What's going to happen? Diya is very uncertain. You know, she's just kind of like, well, how do you know we'll ever see each other again? And Min is just wonderfully stubborn and persistent in what they think. And they say, you know what? If we want it to happen, we're going to make it happen. And then Min creates this sort of blended name for them, Diamond, because Diya and Min, and if you mispronounce Diya to Diya, the way that substitute teachers pronounce it, it's Diamond. Diamond. So this is a really convoluted way of
Classic.
just making Diya feel better and just reinforcing the fact that Min is there to stay and they'll find a way to reunite.
This also takes place like time-wise, like late 90s, early 2000s. They don't give you like the exact year, but just like based on the things that they have access to and are interested in. And like this is when those combined ship names are a big deal. So I thought that was just like a fun thing. Like we have to really focus on this, which is exactly, again, what kids would be focused on. I remember talking with my friends when like Kelly and Brad were going out and it's like, oh, you're Brelly or you're Cad or something like that. Which Cad or Crad? Crad is a terrible
That
ship
is a
name.
horrible. Yeah, that is a rough name to go by.
But is it better than Brelly? I'm not sure. It's not.
Brelly at least sounds like what the helly, which I can like. I could take that ride. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I could
okay.
take that ride.
We'll go on that journey.
And just as a note, I guess we flash forward to the present day. And in the present day, we do get a little bit more context about the timing. And I'm fast forwarding just a little bit because in the conversation as these characters are walking to school, they talk about this Proposition 8 that is coming up on the ballot. And in the newsletter, I sent out a little blurb about what it was for folks who may not have been familiar with ballots on the West Coast at that time, which is, pretty specific time period and location. But Prop 8 was initially in 2008. I guess it came up again in 2018 later, but this was a proposition and constitutional amendment intended to ban same-sex marriage in California, where it had been legalized already a few years back. So this game is taking place within a context of a relatively tumultuous time for LGBTQ folks who have already gotten this right to be married. Now it's being contested. So that is a backdrop that is weaved into this game really smoothly.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, as you're playing, especially as Diya, and she's kind of having some of these sexual awakenings and exploring like what her actual like interests are, you can tell that she's very anxious about this in a way that like, I don't know. I mean, granted, like I grew up in Indiana, so like California propositions were not super something I was paying attention to, but I like the fact that she is so aware and concerned with any sort of, proposition for the ballot as a ninth grader, I think kind of speaks to like their level of concern, like kind of having some sense about who they are that maybe they haven't fully articulated yet.
Yeah. And I think what I appreciate about this game is that each of the characters, as we progress through the story, are interacting with their queerness in different ways. We have some characters who are much more open about it, who seem much more comfortable about it. We have characters like Diya, who almost doesn't even know the words to describe and put into place how she feels. Because she's still sort of searching for that language for herself. And so I think, but it doesn't, this game also reinforces like they're all queer. They're just at these different steps. And I really appreciate that kind of representation as well as like we have this game, the layers of representation is just so good because we have the Asian kids who normally in any other game would be Asian as this monolith. We have a Korean kid. We have two kids from India from different regions, and they specify those different regions. We have a Taiwanese kid. And I think that again, we talk about specificity with Venba, and I think this is another really good example of this is what you get in representation when you can get this specific, because then you get details like peeling oranges, that you wouldn't see in any other game.
Yeah, and this happens much later in one of the flashbacks of them being kids, but just because we're having this part of the conversation now, they're talking with their white redheaded friend that's in that an opening scene,
Yeah.
and they're talking about Asian people, and he's like, well, guess what percent of the country is Asian? And they're all guessing very high numbers, and essentially it's 4%, and they don't believe him because they live in neighborhoods and go to schools that are predominantly Asian communities. And there's something about that I thought was wow, this leaves so much space for these communities to not just be we're Asian, but to have specific cultural and ethnic ties that are otherwise almost always flattened. So it was a really cool moment, and as a kid to not have even the perception that that's what the rest the country's racial demographic is very different. I thought it was kind of a cool moment for me to see, at least.
Yeah, I thought so too. And I don't know about the other characters, but for at least Min, you kind of see that, I don't know, confidence in Min, where I feel like we don't know much about the background of the other characters, if they always grew up in Oakland, if they moved in from, a different part of the world or part of the States, and what their experience was like in the US prior to that, if they moved. But I feel like Min, it's Min has the confidence of a kid who's grown up with other people to see themselves in, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like Diya feels like she hasn't seen herself places, and so she's afraid to take up space in the places that she doesn't know if she belongs. So,
well, and it kind of removes a degree of othering for the girls that end up growing up here. Not removes, but diminishes it in a way that in other games where it's there's the one Asian student that you see, there's a comfort that maybe you get to see here, where they're more able to share who they are and parts of the growing up experience with the oranges that I don't know, I don't think you get to highlight as much in other with other backdrops. So
yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah. So we walk to school as Diya gets ready for school. We get a chat message, which these are my favorite parts in the game.
Agreed. So the chat rooms are important backdrop happening here.
So we get a chat from Yaoi Seme, which is, the name is perfect. We find out later that is the handle for Akarsha, who just asks us if we like Pringles. I said yes. Did you say
Same.
Yes? Okay.
Yes.
And we go outside, and apparently there's just
a single Pringle on the doorstep.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's Akarsha, who we learn is really the jokester, the prankster, and the gremlin of this group. 100%.
Akarsha immediately became my favorite character. I was God, we got introduced to Min, and I was Min is gonna be my fave, top to bottom. And I do still love Min, but Akarsha, her humor, the things that she's interested in, I was just so taken by this character and how it seems like she's so comfortable being the person who's not afraid to say the weird thing. And, we learn that there's a darkness behind that, which I, again, appreciated, that there's something is being covered with this persona. But I just absolutely loved her and the interest that she had, the jokes that she made, and the way she brought other people in. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Definitely a strength of Akarsha is that she is very much the glue. I would say they kind of like the Sailor Scouts. I think I loved every single character in this. Every person in this group has something essential. Akarsha for me is the glue. I think if we didn't have her, I don't know if this group would have gotten together and stuck together.
I don't think so.
And so as we're walking to school, they see the Prop 8 sort of campaigners, saying yes to Prop 8. They talk about how, the people who are wanting to say yes are voting to ban gay marriage. They even talk about the dissonance they see on one of the people's signs. I guess there's a guy who's holding up the sign that says, like, I'm voting yes to Prop 8 and my brother's gay, and it's just
but I still love my gay brother.
But I still I still love my gay brother. And it's just like, that makes no sense.
It's the cognitive dissonance I was raised with, is that exact but I do this because I love them, and it's like, no, it's such a fascistic way of thinking.
Yeah, well, and that's that phrase, "I do this because I love you," is one that we see and should remember when we explore the parental relationships and how the parents, I think, for almost every student in this game, treats their kid, and they're to varying degrees, but it is very much I'm doing this because I love you is the reason, and in my opinion, it's not a good reason, and it's not an excuse for the ways that these parents are treating their kids.
Fully agree. I do think we need to pause here, though, for just a moment.
Yes.
Because we get a really powerful question, and I need to know what your answer to this question is.
Yes, I was going to see. Yep.
Which is, so basically Akarsha, as the person who's perhaps the most thoughtful person in this group. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Says, how many second graders can you take on if they are coming at you in waves of 10? And every 5 of them, you get a 5th grader that shows up as a boss, like a mini boss.
Yeah.
So in the game, you get to choose a number, and I chose 15 for Diya. But you, 30-something-year-old Jenny, how many second graders can you take down with 5th grader boss battles every 5?
I would stick by my answer that I put for Diya, and I would say 15. I think I was underestimating Diya by a little bit, but maybe overestimating myself. But I think I could take about 15. How about you?
Infinite. Just bring them all.
Yeah. I mean, you're just much stronger than I am. So.
If there's one thing that I believe I can do, it's take down some second graders.
Yeah.
The 5th graders might give me a little trouble, but if I train in like high gravity simulators for like a month, infinite, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess if we added training in, my answer would be a little different. But I think as of today,
you get to do a month of like hyperbolic chamber.
Oh yeah. Easy. Yeah. Infinite.
Okay. Infinite. Cool. Good. We're on the same
Take
page.
out those second graders. No problem. 5th graders, easy. Give me a challenge.
Ugh. So fun.
In addition to meeting Akarsha as we enter school, and we have these really fun conversations, we also get to meet Noelle of Best Friend fame. Unlike Diya, Noelle is kind of absurdly weak. Like, cannot open a bottle for herself, kind of weak, struggles to to sit up after lying down, kind of weak, just very, very weak physically. But she is, as I wrote down, a dream kid for Asian parents. And I think that's a line that I wrote down from the game, because she is one of the smartest and most highly achieving students in the school. So she makes up for her brawn with brains.
And I think that is like absolutely like the characterization that they want us to come away with. Mm-hmm. But to your point about like the way they give each of these characters like space to breathe and a little bit of room. Noelle's funny. Like Noelle's a prankster in the same way that Akarsha is. Like I think she put a library security tag on the inside of the backpack for Akarsha so that every time she leaves it will go off. Like I thought like it's so easy in our media to have like the quiet good Asian students. Exactly. And the fact that they get her like, yeah, she's a great student, but also she's got this like really incredible mischievous side. I loved it.
Yeah, I think sort of less is or not as much as Diya, but I think excuse me, I think Noelle in a lot of ways hasn't been given permission to be fully who she is. And while Noelle, I think, is still very stifled by her parents' expectations and sort of the pressures that they put on her, more so than Diya, she is able to find ways to subvert those expectations and to rebel against them quietly enough where she feels like she has a little bit of control, but she's still, her parents are unaware of what's going on. I loved that she was a prankster and that she is stubborn.
Yeah.
Like, if she's very much I wrote this down to ask you because I just didn't want to Google it. You know how in D&D they have like the chaotic neutral, the truly evil. What's like the good verb where it's like you're the ultimate literal good?
Wow. You asked me this and now I can't think of it. It
Sorry.
There's like chaotic good. Good is the first one. What is the first one? Lawful good. She's
okay.
like lawful chaotic, maybe, or
Yeah, I
lawful
was
neutral.
gonna say she seemed like, I think she starts lawful neutral, but maybe is more lawful chaotic once you get to know her. And I think that's really incredible where she is so by the book, but it makes her even funnier in a lot of respects. And
Yeah.
so I grew very fond of Noelle. I think while Akarsha is maybe one of the overt favorites, Noelle still was a favorite to me.
Yeah.
I love them all for such different reasons.
I totally agree with that take. And it's fun watching these dynamics and like you meet them outside, you get to see them in class, you get to see them as they like somehow hack into the school sound system to like disrupt class a la fire alarms to help each other out. Like it's just like watching these girls work together was very, very cool. And while they're in this moment, because Min's moved away, it's been 5 years, you have this moment where, because they had this like fire alarm type thing, they're outside. Diya catches a glimpse of the back of someone's head that looks like it could be a 9th grade Min. And like, again, my heart is like, I loved that. It was it was like, I don't know, remember like K-dramas, like that moment where it's like you catch the back of someone's head as they're walking away.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I can hear the song end. Like that's when the credits would roll in the episode, and then you get the whoosh, 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 and then like the Subway logo would come up, and the dramatic song would sing. Yeah, that is definitely the end of the episode of the K-drama kind of moment. So yeah, seeing Min, or what looks like is a Min sort of figure walking by, sort of flashes us back to a memory that Diya has of an afternoon that we find out is an afternoon in the dog park with Min. And this is so sweet because Min sort of kidnaps Diya, takes a bike, and brings Diya to a place where they know that Diya is going to love, and that is hanging out with pups and being able to play frisbee and pet them and all of that. We learn that Min also does not get along with their parents very much. And it's interesting because we don't get, I think, a ton of details early on about Min's parents, maybe because that's just the structure. But we do know that Diya also is like, or no, sorry, we don't get a ton of detail about Diya's parents throughout the game. And that's where I was like, I'm very curious.
What's going on there?
Yeah. Like, we know a lot of these other students are having very intense struggles at home, as we learn throughout the game. But Diya is not someone we get that insight with.
Yeah.
So.
And I do like the way they did the parents. It's like all of them are like, you get the character cut out, but their faces are all shadowed, like almost like villains of a story in some ways. I had a question for you also, kind of around this scene. There is a reference that Noelle helped Diya speak, but what I couldn't tell is if it was like Noelle helped Diya while she was maybe like learning English, or they also referenced like Diya has a hard time hearing people sometimes. So what was your read on like what's happening with Diya?
I think so. I was a little bit confused at first because they just say like Diya's bad ear specifically. And later on, I think during the Akarsha chapter, I think they more explicitly say that Diya is like either deaf or partially deaf in one ear. So I think that's what
Okay.
they're referring to.
That's interesting because, like, you know, whenever Dia's about to speak to someone like new or an authority figure or whatever, you get to see Dia rehearsing what she's going to say, like in
Yeah.
her thoughts before
Yeah.
she, you know, sometimes successfully, sometimes unsuccessfully tries to say the thing.
Right.
And so I was just curious if there was something going on there and like what the subtext was. So yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. Let's see.
So
I
third
guess
grade dream, an incredible date from men. Like I couldn't plan a date that good if I tried. I was blown away that this third grader could
honestly,
do this.
I was like, I would love that date. That's so cute. But we are suddenly woken up as Min cups Dia's face in their hands. Dia's questioning her sexuality in the dream, and then boom, the alarm goes off. It's time for school.
Can't even
Womp
like
womp.
use the word lesbian. Like you see them
No.
like trying to like piece it together.
Yeah, I think
Ugh.
Dia writes. I think the dialogue is like les bean,
Bean?
like bean, and it just sort of you just see this like yeah, not even the full word. I think for a couple of these scenes or a couple of these moments before Dia actually says lesbian,
Yeah.
like in
Yeah.
full.
Yeah.
We head to school. Looks like it's going to be another normal day with the normal chaos that high school brings. I thought it was hilarious that we learned that Dia was confused about what tiger sharks look like and was really disappointed. And so at first, because Dia shows up and looks really sort of like glum in the face, Noelle asks what's wrong, and Akarsha's like, "Oh, did you just remember what tiger sharks look like?" So I'm assuming Dia thought tiger sharks actually look like tigers.
If only. What
If
a
only.
better world we would be living in.
I would be glum about that news too. But Noelle, I think what's really cool is we see Noelle as a friend reading immediately that something is up with Dia. And Noelle, she doesn't push her for it, but does say like, "Hey, I can talk if you want me to. I'm here for you." Just a really nice moment of a friend recognizing something in another friend and being there for them
Yeah.
in a way that isn't too overhanded or pressuring in the moment, especially at school.
Yeah. And it's also in this moment that we get the backdrop for what is going to be kind of the central thrust of a lot of the story setting, which is there is a kind of intramural style baseball team that has tryouts or a call out for that night. And they convince Noelle to come as well, but it's Dia, Noelle, Akarsha are all going to go. And I loved this whole sequence. So like after school, they go out and meet the leaders of the team, the people like upperclassmen that also play like other like women or girls, and they're connecting on the funniest things. Like it seems like maybe the anime club has also come because they got into like a baseball anime. Like
Yeah.
you get this great trend where when any time Akarsha messes up, she makes up this absolutely wild excuse about how like that was actually intentional all along. Like the humor of these meetings is
So
phenomenal. And yet we also have Dia, who like baseball is her sweet spot. It's the place she's the most at home, runs away before practice starts.
Yeah.
But we get that like OTP match made in heaven moment where she runs into the locker room and runs into ninth grade grown-up men. This scene,
It's so cute. It is just like you see sort of like, I don't know if it was actually in the art, but I saw it where it's like you get the soft sort of Sailor Moon, like 90s roses and hearts and bubbles, like kind of cloudy in the foreground, and just everything's a little blurred but beautiful and sparkly. That's how I felt when that scene happened.
yes,
It was so cute. And, you know, of course, like Min fell on their back, and Diya is sort of like on all fours on top of them. And it's just like so awkward and cute. And I wrote down, Diya just says, "I'm gay, I'm gay, I'm gay."
Yeah, that's right.
I'm like, what? Like, this is just so cute. It's just
well, and the first thing they say to each other is hello in the language that they were shown or that taught each other. And like, oh my God, like I wasn't expecting it to come back like that. And it was like they blush because like they know what they told each other. And like, again, for me, I don't know what Min has said yet. So like, I know it's something cute and meaningful, but I don't know what it is. And I was just like, my heart was warm. I'm like on the plane, just like, it's happening.
I know. It's so wild. And like knowing knowing Saranghae's I love you, I was just kind of like, oh, like this is the stuff K-dramas are made of, honestly. It's just so beautiful. So this, everyone runs after Diya because they're wanting to check on her, make sure she's doing okay. And of course, Min and Noelle see each other, instantly hate. The lightning bolts on, across the room. They just really don't like each other. There's metal music, which really only plays when Min is kind of like leading in a scene, which is hilarious. Very Agrasuko sort of vibes.
Exactly.
And Min kind of instantly starts to just argue with Noelle and then gets in a fight with with Akarsha. And not only does Min kind of push Akarsha up to the wall, in which that's where Akarsha says, damn, like this is kind of hot.
Yeah, that's right.
But Min then like actually punches Akarsha, if I remember correctly, and they start to fight. Akarsha does the absolute most batshit thing I've ever read in any game. And it's hilarious. It's so funny. Akarsha reaches down, wipes some period blood on her hands, and starts to get it on Min.
Like, it's a two-prong attack because Akarsha has also, from her foot, flung her flip-flops to hit Min in the face. Like, you can picture the anime moment, like, boing, like, hits her in the face with the flip-flop, like, rubs period blood on her. And it's just like...
absolutely wild.
It's one of those things where it's like when you have two dogs and you're not sure how they're going to get along and they, like, start, like, really going at each other and they realize, like, oh, our play styles are perfectly compatible and they're, like, instantly best friends.
Yes.
God, it was so good.
Yeah, like... I forget exactly what Min says. I should have wrote it down because it was hilarious. Because Min basically is like, you are disgusting. Let's be friends. We're cool now. Like, that's ballsy and great. And the humor in this scene, because not only is this like, the art is hilarious. The dialogue and what's happening physically is hilarious. The music is that like bad rendition of Titanic, which makes it over the top perfection. Yeah. Like everything happening in the scene, you can't top it. It's so funny.
Fully agreed. We then have a perspective shift, and we get to start seeing the world through Noelle's eyes. And it kind of begins with like a nightmare sequence for her, like in third grade. Is there something from that it's kind of worth chatting about? Because the baseball game, I just was one of my favorite sequences.
Yeah, I think it shows really just Noelle's relationship with her family, how it is just testy. It shows Noelle does have a soft side, accepting a snake stuffy from Diya, and how she's on the surface like, oh, what will I do with a stuffed animal? Like, this is not for someone like me, but really she is excited about it. So that was kind of just a moment to see more of that depth in Noelle. But yeah, let's talk about that about that game.
So this is their first like practice as a group, right? And no one knows who Min is, completely unknown. We do learn that Min has been expelled from the school that their brother goes to, that they experienced a lot of racism in Florida. And again, like you learned about kind of the almost protective nature of like being in this like mostly Asian community, like predominantly Asian community that they're in with this school that they go to. But what I loved is you get all the like goofy, like Noelle doesn't really play sports. Akarsha doesn't really play sports, but is making an effort. And anytime they mess up, has this like great joke. But
Right.
the moment that was just so good is Min gets up to pitch and like show what they can do. And they have a killer knuckleball. Again, a very difficult ball to hit, difficult ball to catch. And no one can hit it. The person that's been playing catcher can't catch it. And they're like, well, that's because only Diya can. And so Diya gets called up to play catcher. And which, by the way, is not like the most desirable of roles to have in baseball anyway. But the fact that like they're ready and like Min throws the ball and Diya catches it. And it's like Akarsha gets like the classic anime line, like, that's impossible. Like,
it's so good.
I was dying. And it's like, basically the moment is to show like how in sync these two are, even in these, after these years apart. Like, Min knows when to come out of the squat to catch a higher ball that's like technically a ball, knows how to be in the pocket to catch the strike, and like no one can hit off Min. Like, it was just like such a great moment to highlight how
beautiful
good these two are together in a way that I really loved.
No, it's perfection. And I think there is a line, I forget which of the two coaches or sort of like the mentors for this club says it. I don't know if it's Krissa or Liz, but describing the knuckleball, this like type of pitch to, I think it's Noelle. And they talk about how this is the kind of pitch that someone does when they have nothing to lose, and that no one really expects, you know, anything. And they kind of like also extend that to a metaphor about like the club itself. And it's like, they have nothing to lose. No one expects anything of us. So why not just do what we can and like go all out, you know, and be who we truly are, or throw that pitch the way we want to throw it. So again, this is reinforcement of a message that we're seeing over and over again about being true to yourself and finding the community and people who help you do that, which is really nice.
And, you know, speaking of like being who you are, the like next sequence as the game is wrapped up, the students are like running back to the school, and Min starts smoking, and Akarsha's like, oh, can I try that? And Noelle freaks out. Again, we're in Noelle's perspective right now. Like, no, slaps the cigarette out of her hand. It hits dry brush and starts a fire, and then it's like, how are we gonna get this fire out? Like, whose jacket do they not mind like ruining? So Diya does it, and it's just like one of those things. Like, I was Noelle as a kid. Like, I had this moment of like, my friends are gonna do something that's both bad and unhealthy. I have to be the one to step up and stop that, and that, like, you know, kind of like model student, like I'm gonna make sure that this bad thing doesn't happen, and then you do it in a way that causes a way worse scenario. Oh
my gosh. But yeah, that whole scene is, again, just the moments with these kids are so funny and they're so real. Like, the dialogue is just, I can hear teenagers talking like that. I could hear me and my friends talking like that. It's just, it's great. And of course, you know, they try to pin it on, I think they ended up trying to pin it on this fictional person who wasn't even there.
Yes.
And then I think the line that Akarsha says at the end as they're kind of winding down the scene is like, oh, I can't believe the Frenchman tried to commit arson. Because that is the nickname that they have for Noelle, is the Frenchman. So.
And again, like, Akarsha, the glue of this group. So like the very next scene is a group chat, and it's like, they basically, Min is in there going hard at Noelle, renames the group to make fun of her, like the text is aggressive, and Akarsha, in what is one of the most masterful displays of, I don't know, societal manipulation that I can think of, is like starts quoting Full Metal Alchemist, like equivalent exchange, essentially like changes the group name to be something that's appropriate, but then changes her name to be like actually like jokingly
Right.
making fun of Noelle, and
Yeah.
then eventually like also changes it back to her thing, but like uses that to completely de-escalate Min and like pull both Min into the conversation and Noelle into the conversation. I was like, this is
So good.
masterful.
Yeah, Akarsha is just incredible. The way that she just like, yeah, brings people in, allows people to feel welcome, allows people to participate. And she even, I think, says explicitly to both of them, like, what a great opportunity for you to both become best friends. And they're like, I hate you. I hate you. And Akarsha's like, yeah, cool. It's going to happen. It's fine.
Yeah.
I think what also to sort of put into context what else Noelle is going through right before and during that group chat, Noelle is dealing with her mom sort of doing what she always does, where she comes in and says, you know, what did you get on your test? An A? Why not an A plus? Here's some newspaper clippings of people to inspire you. This other Asian American kid who's first generation, who like has a wing in Harvard named after him. You know, it's just all of this stuff to set up the expectations for the sort of American dream as sort of people were taught, you know, especially immigrant families were taught. And it's so hard because I think, especially after playing games like 1,000 Times Resist and knowing, you know, my family story, many of my friends' family stories about what it's like to be an immigrant kid, but also to have parents who immigrated here, like there is that struggle. Also, just minor Sinners shout out. Like I think Sinners does a really great job of highlighting like elements of that immigrant struggle, particularly with their Chinese American characters. Like, oh, so yeah, y'all go see Sinners. I don't know if it's even in theater still, but find a way. It's good.
Find a way.
And so I think there is a part of me that was like, oh, I mean, I know a degree of this parent and I can understand maybe where they would come from in wanting their student or their kid to do well because they've done all this stuff. But that being said, Noelle's parents, and we later learn some of the other kids' parents, take it to a degree that is unhealthy and toxic and really harmful to these students, to just like really stifle who they are and who they want to be. And it's really tough to see Noelle go through it, but you also see Noelle going back into the chat and like finding her people to help mitigate some of that. And
like her moment of rebellion is here that you were mentioning earlier.
Yeah, she, after her mom berates her and tells her, you know, she can't talk to these people, that her friends aren't really her friends, just her competition.
I couldn't
which
believe
is
that. Oh,
so horrible to think about. She then goes back into the group chat and says, you know, I think I'm in for this baseball club that I initially was not going to be in.
Well, and like, I think setting aside all of the like likely positively intentioned things that the mother is doing, it is very clear that Noelle is not seen, and who Noelle is not seen. And like the very next morning, we learn that Prop 8 has passed, and in conversation, they have a very casual conversation we witness about like being gay, and one of the lines that gets said, I think Diya says it, is like, I already know how my parents voted, or something like that, like indicating that they are opposed to gay marriage and equal rights. And like there's something about that like single line of dialogue that kind of underlines how perhaps a lot of these girls are struggling with not being seen by their parents. And I just think like you see it show up in all these different ways, but I don't know, I thought that was a really powerful tie-in.
Yeah, and that morning when we learn the news about Prop 8 is our third perspective shift to Akarsha. And I think another element of their conversation that I found interesting was also the difference that they reacted to Prop 8, not simply just how their parents reacted to it, but Prop 8 in combination with Obama being elected as president. Because Akarsha...
Yes, we can.
Oh my gosh. Because Akarsha is really focused on the ways that she she's struggling with the fact that she's seeing the country essentially start to slide backwards with this legislation. And even with Obama being elected, she's like, yeah, but this stuff is still happening on the ground. Like, legally, we're losing these rights. And you can see Diya be in a different place in sort of how she's interacting with this news and this understanding. And, you know, her focus is, but Obama got elected. Like, yes, we can. And she keeps repeating that, you know, as if there's this balm to the other stuff that's happening. And so that was also just a really neat conversation that showed the different places, like where they're at, I guess, in their understanding of the world and how they interact with it.
It's also in this perspective later in the day, as like the girls are kind of split up and trying to find each other, that you start to see the dark side of Akarsha's humor quite a bit. And she's like by herself in the gym, and she's like making an echo, and you can start hearing like the very negative self-talk. And there's a conversation that it's like, well, it's not that I want to die, but like if a car were hurtling toward me, I maybe wouldn't move out of the way. Yeah. And Min shows up at that moment and is like, I would stand there and like punch the car out of the way. And I was like, yes, Min. Yes. Min. Like, it was just like that loneliness is so powerful and strong, especially for like high schoolers. And the way Min kind of engages with this, like, oh no, we're fighting. We're fighting for, I'm here to fight for you. And I am like part, like you are part of me. I am part of you. Like, there's just something about that was just like, I teared up at this moment. Same. In how this was handled. Cause it's Akarsha's like love language. Like, it's the same type of like silly extreme thing that Akarsha does to de-escalate and pull people in. That is how Min engages in Min's way to like pull Akarsha back from the edge in that moment. Yeah, I love this. I think for me, their friendship is one of my favorite friendships in games. They're just, I love the way that they feed off of one another, and they just they enable one another to do some pretty wild things. But they are solidly there for each other in ways that it feels so good to see. It really does. I guess we also have to call out, like, later in this perspective is a conversation between Diya and Akarsha where Diya is explicitly like, I think I'm gay, and Akarsha's like, well, yeah, and I'm bi, and like it's I thought that was obvious. Like, and like, I know, such so good. Like, again, like the way to just like pull someone in and like make them feel seen, and like, oh, I didn't even realize this was a secret. Like, I flirt with you. Like, I thought we were all on the same page here. Is like a great way to be like, hey, I acknowledge and see this in you, but also like, it's not like a problematic thing. It's a part of who we are together. And I just, again, I thought that was so cool. And like, you should tell Min because Min likes you.
That's what I love too. Not only was Akarsha like in Diya's corner doing her a solid, but also like advocating for this thing that she has seen building between the two of them. And so it's nice because it's like, yeah, they're all friends. They're all hanging out. Of course, Akarsha knows. Of course, Noelle knows. It's just like, it's really nice to see the friends sort of encourage one another in that way. Yeah. I also wanted to highlight another thing that Min does to cheer Akarsha up, and that is the skateboard moment where Min is like, all right, get on this skateboard. And I'm just gonna help you fly. And they try to sing High School Musical. They don't remember.
They don't know the words.
They don't know the words, so they just repeat the first two lines. Titanic is playing again in the background. I took this as another screenshot because this was a moment where, again, we had this sort of emotional, huge, not necessarily low, but this really vulnerable moment from Akarsha that really touched my heart, and to see Min just like lighten the mood and sort of bring her back in that kind of way is just, again, like you said, it's the perfect way to bring her back.
Oh, and also like the reason Min was like in the gym where they find them is because Min didn't want to be changing in the locker room with the other girls. And so like
Yes.
it's just like subtly hinted at here, but again, like we're dealing, like Min is addressing and learning how to deal with their gender identity. And so this is kind of the transition point where we get to Min's perspective, which we haven't had since we got to the 9th grade years.
Yes. Let's see. Before we fully get into Min's perspective, we do have the game
Oh,
that's
the
been
whole
happening.
game.
Yeah, there's been a whole game that we've been interspersing with against the killer whales, which coincidentally includes Jun, which is Min's twin brother, who did not know Min was also on a rec team. So that's a secret, definitely being kept from the parents. I highlighted a smooth seat moment from Min. So there's not enough room for everyone to sit on the bench. And so Min
good.
is like, Diya, come sit in my lap. And Akarsha is like, hey, just kind of being the jokester, knowing exactly what the intention was. Akarsha's like, it doesn't make sense. Shouldn't it be the other way around? And Min gets so mad at Akarsha and just glares daggers. But yeah, Min.
Yeah, like kicks her under the bench or something like that, and they like cover it up
with a scream.
Yeah.
Which is, again, it's what is so funny about this game, because before we started recording, remember I was like, oh, it's a relatively short game, really straightforward plot. I don't think we're going to have like a longer episode. This may be a shorter one. We're already at like an hour 45-ish. It's because every moment feels so fun and significant to talk about.
Yep.
Even the moments like this where nothing happens, it just feels important because it's part of their lives, and that's important.
It's important
and
to them. Yeah.
I love that. But yeah, Akarsha screaming and then pretending like she was screaming to cover up a fart.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Perfect.
And then Noelle calling her out saying, but you bragged about farting in a D major triad or something like that last week, so this doesn't make sense. Like, they know each other.
They know each other.
They call each other out. It's just, it's so good.
So then we get to some of the more heartbreaking scenes of this first part of Butterfly Soup. We get Min's flashback, and you see Min in 2nd grade, I think, with like very long hair, wearing a dress, like, and expressing that they're uncomfortable in this kind of gendered clothing. You also see you don't see, but you understand that there is the abuse happening in the home from Min's father. And this was so hard to engage with. Also, like, it explains, like, it's kind of the payoff of a lot of the clues that have been getting dropped all along about the home environment that Min's being raised in.
Yeah.
You get that, like, June is in this, like, protective place of, like, more in, like, fight or flight. They're going more towards, like, the flight or the fawn. Like, I'm going to try and make myself as small as possible and unobtrusive as possible. And Min's like, screw that. Like, I'm going to be me, and, like, I will fight him to, like, protect you or to protect myself, but, like, I'm not going out like that.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, and this is, so this, we have experience already seeing Noelle's mother in particular, and father, but Noelle's mother doing more of that emotional abuse and sort of manipulation and berating. With Min's father in particular, there is that verbal abuse, but there is the physical as well. Like, I think, what is it? He throws like a vase or a statue or something.
Yeah.
And Min talks later about how he would throw things like a toilet seat at them. And so we're seeing this, it's just this worse home life sort of shown to us for Min, which honestly, oh my gosh, it just made me amazed at how much of a fighter she was, considering, especially seeing how her twin definitely had a very different reaction. This was really hard. I think this was probably the other time, maybe the second time I got choked up, just because after the highs of the baseball game, them winning, the little sitting together moment, Noelle catching and like fainting with the balls, like, or, whatever. And
so good.
You had these like absolute highs, and then to flashback, that was rough.
Well, it's like we're addressing that these traumatic experiences are real, but even in this flashback, the next scene is Diya and Min meeting for the first time, and like Min, cheering. Even though Diya is on the other team, Min is like cheering for her to like hit the ball, and then after she does, she screams,
Yeah.
"God bless America!" Like,
Which is the funniest. Like, what the hell?
but like it shows like how the well-rounded storytelling, I think, that like we are juxtaposing these moments of extremely low lows with the moment of like the magical moment of these two meeting, and understanding the whole world that Min lives in, and that even though there's this trauma, there is beauty and joy. And I just think it's a real flower in the caps of these game creators and storytellers that they were able to do this.
Yeah. So we see like the meet cute from Min's perspective. We see earlier we got a reference from Diya that Diya got seaweed, like a sheet of seaweed from Min, and we see that happening as well. And then we flash forward to the present day to what was possibly the funniest chat scene in the whole game.
Oh my God.
Where I forget who, but someone's like, "Hey, can you come into the chat because the rest of the team," I think it's Diya, says to Min, "The rest of the team is being very weird in the baseball team chat. Could you just like come fix this?" And it's the anime club kids essentially role playing in the chat, and Akarsha's also there, just rolling with it
just
too,
doing it too, absolutely egging it on.
Gosh, it's so funny. I got tears in my eyes from laughing so hard because that honestly was high school. I had friends in high school who were so into that, and
fully,
I was like, yeah, it took me back. It was great.
I loved it. Like, I remember sitting in church next to my buddy, like doing Dragon Ball Z attack moves silently to each other, like trading off. Like, that was me in 9th grade. So it's like I felt so thoroughly seen in this scene. Like,
oh my gosh, yeah, it's funny. Like the little asterisks, and it's like asterisk nuzzles your head, and then it's like nyan asterisk purrs loudly. It's like, oh my God,
so good.
Yeah, very funny.
We also get in this moment that the girls are gonna, or the team is all gonna meet up at the mall to celebrate their victory. But Min is gonna get a tutoring scene with Noelle for real beforehand. And I love this. Like, it's kind of the turnaround point in their relationship. They start to kind of understand each other in a more real way. You start to see that, like, there might be like some actual like learning disabilities or issues happening with Min that's a part of all of this. And I just thought it was handled so well. It's like, yeah, this is how two people would become friends in this moment, like, and see each other. I thoroughly love that scene.
Yeah. And what I appreciated the most too is that Min and Noelle, even in their newfound friendship, are still like, I'm still,
a little antagonistic.
Just like they still get on each other's nerves. But they both love Diya. And I think it's really cool to see that they say, hey, you know what? We both really love this person and we want what's best for her. And we both are important to her. So we're going to like make this work. But they do also, from the scene, especially the tutoring scene, find these ways to respect one another for each other and not just because of Diya. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
They connect on their parents and like what that's like for them.
Yep.
And you also get that, like, oh, I think Noelle's going to help Min with like some dating advice for how to get with Diya. And so we get this whole incredible scene in the mall. They go to like an Indian spot. And again, like, Noelle comes through with a banger, like shows a photo of a glass next to a toilet to imply that Akarsha is drinking toilet water.
What a prank.
Great prank. And so Akarsha and Diya run to the bathroom, which leaves Min and Noelle, who are the two that are not like ethnically connected to India, alone to try and like understand, like they think they're drinking iced tea at one point and it's not, like,
Oh my gosh.
everything
Yeah.
about this scene was great, and like you see them connect. I think this is where you also learn in this scene that men taught "I love you" to Diya, because when they're at the mall, Diya says "hello" quotes
Yeah.
to men, but because we're in men's POV, it is translated. So this is when I finally got to learn what it was. It warmed the cold cockles of my heart. I
Yeah.
loved it. Yeah, so like this whole scene was really fabulous. They tried to sneak men in a duffel bag for some reason I did not understand, but it felt very high school to me.
Yep. Well, yeah, if you could sneak someone in for free, that's always the best option. Did it in movie
Obviously.
theaters? Yeah, of course. Oh my gosh, you never snuck a friend into the movie theaters? What? No, yeah,
See
neither did
earlier
I.
note
Neither
about
did I.
me being the Noelle of my friend group. Like, see earlier note. So I think all of this is going to culminate in essentially men getting the advice for how to ask Diya out, which they do kind of immediately, like, we should go get food. And they're like, well, we are getting food. We should go get food, just the two of us. And just, again, perfectly men, perfectly this story, perfectly
So
these
awkward and
characters.
good. Yeah.
And we get the two of them at my understanding was kind of like a crushed ice snow cone type place.
Yeah, like a frozen ice place. Yeah.
And men's getting advice via text on the types of flavors that Dia's going to like. And
Yeah.
then we learn that Noelle and Akarsha are actually there in disguise. Akarsha's
table
painted on a
behind them.
mustache with glasses. Like, oh my God, it's so good. And it's the most
Yeah.
precious little date during the school day.
Yeah, it's like during their lunch break, which is even cuter.
Oh my God. And they have to go really quickly because they have to get back to school before the next
Yeah.
class starts.
Yeah.
But the best pickup line I have ever heard, like, wow, this is really cold. Wow, I have brain freeze. Like,
Oh my gosh.
do you want me to warm your mouth up? Oh my God.
I know. Again, I'm like,
lost it.
Min, what the heck? And this, I mean, Min is keeping a literally cool head amidst all of this really bad pickup line advice. I think Akarsha says something like, oh, just say rat piss, which apparently I forget what it meant.
Send nudes, which I have never heard.
I'm like, where is Akarsha getting this? But yeah, Akarsha's like, oh, just tell her rat piss, or like, you is cute, or things, just like the worst lines.
Terrible
but
advice.
Also hilarious.
Yeah, hilarious.
And so yeah, we get the kiss. We get the kiss. These two are so adorable.
The payoff of this is like when you're 8 episodes into a K-drama and they finally kiss. Like, that was the feeling that I had.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's just, I just appreciated again that this was not a story where it was a will they, won't they. It was just a when will they?
When will they?
And for me, that just made me able to enjoy that slow burn even more.
Yeah.
And what I loved is that this game is only about 3 hours long, and it still felt like a slow burn, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It didn't feel rushed. It felt very much like the exact amount of time to wait for that payoff to happen.
So the kiss happens. Min doesn't waste time going around the table, gets on top of the table to kiss Diya,
Yeah.
breaks the table. The two of them get banned from this store for life. And so now all 4 of them are out in the parking lot talking, kind of sharing advice with each other. You get all 4 of them in the same image for the first time. And like, it just felt so good. And it's in this moment that we finally get the title of the game, that when a caterpillar goes into chrysalis, it turns into goop, which they call butterfly soup, and then it emerges as a beautiful butterfly.
Yeah. You need to be soup first before you can be the butterfly. And yeah, we get all sorts of little bits of advice. And then credits roll. after the credits, did you stay? Because I learned my lesson. I was like, I'm going to make sure I stay until the end.
I did. I did stay. I learned my lesson. You get.
No, I learned my lesson because remember I missed the Lost Records ending.
Well, I also learned my lesson because I only solved 6 of the records, or of 6 of the mysteries.
Fair. Touche, yeah.
From Oberdin. So we both learned our lessons. We stayed through the credits, and you get to see what appears to be Min and Diya adopting a dog.
A second dog, because they got the little Shiba Inu, which I named Sheeb because that just seemed natural to me.
Yes. Mine was named Palm. So
cute.
That's who I got. It was amazing. Very cute.
Oh, yeah, the second one we got was named Palm. Was your Shiba Inu named Sheeb or...
I didn't write down the name of the first dog, unfortunately. If I ever get to go back or see an achievement, I will know. But yeah, I don't remember what it was.
Yeah. And that is Butterfly Soup.
S tier. Great game. 10 out of 10. Thank you for bringing this to my life, Jenny.
Oh, that makes me so happy. Yeah, this one, honestly, I did not... I remembered it was good. I did not remember how good it was. It's so... Oh, this
game needs to be on the lips of every person that likes story-driven games, in my opinion. It's that good.
This needs to be on the lips of everyone who enjoyed Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, is my opinion. And I feel like, again, and it's not that I want to discount Bloom and Rage. Again, I have my own critiques of it. We shared those already. I think genuinely, if you loved what Lost Records did, you should not miss Butterfly Soup. I think it is of the same core genre, and it does very different things very beautifully. And yeah, I think if you enjoyed Lost Records, you absolutely need to play this game.
Incredible. Well, that is Butterfly Soup Part 1.
Yeah. I wonder, do you have any questions or predictions? Because we're playing Part 2 next week.
I am extremely interested in Diya's backstory. I feel like it's the character that was maybe the axis that a lot of the action of Part 1 spun around, but we learned very little about what motivates her, what like her biggest frustrations are, like what's going on with the kind of like if it's shyness or anxiety, whatever the word is. Like, I am just extremely curious about her, and I'm thrilled that there is a part 2. Like, this would have been a perfect game regardless, but like knowing that I get to now see a part 2 and I get to like dig deeper into hopefully the characters I didn't get to learn as much about, I'm thrilled.
Yeah, same. I think Diya and Akarsha are the two I would love to know more, because we don't know, I think, really anything about Akarsha's family life.
No.
So I'm very curious to see what potentially we have in store there. I don't know if this is my wishful thinking. It doesn't need to happen, but I feel like Akarsha and Noelle had some...
I need a thing there.
Some energy.
I need a thing there. I agree.
You know, I wouldn't be upset if they didn't get together, but at the same time, I feel like they would be so perfect for one another. There's chemistry. It's got that, like, again, you have the gremlin and then you have the more lawful person. It's just, you can't go wrong with that kind of dynamic.
Yes.
Yeah, so I feel like I would love to see a little bit of something happen between them. Yeah, I love this game. I would say if I had a critique, if I needed to, I think at the end when they're all saying, like, the morals of the story, I don't think I needed that.
Yeah,
it was so charming, I didn't really care, but I think if that was something that wasn't there, it would have maybe been nicer in a sense of like, oh, it didn't have to spell everything out. But at the same time, it felt kind of like a Sailor Moon episode. You know how at the end when they were like, Sailor Moon says, you know, you should always trust your friends. It felt very much like that. So in that way, I felt like since it was a little bit of an homage moment, that's okay.
I agree. Well, you know, for me, I wrote down because their baseball jerseys had the Monarchs. I thought that was the Butterfly Soup thing. So, yeah, I agree. Like, not fully needed, but like, it's a fun way to wrap up this part of the game. Yeah. My one critique is that I made it exactly halfway through and my game auto shut off and I hadn't been saving it because I didn't realize that I needed to. I thought I was just going to play it all in one sitting, and then I had to hit spacebar a billion times to get back to the place where I left off. That's my only critique, but that's not a game problem.
No, I mean, but I think it shows how different games are nowadays. In that back when this one launched, saving probably was much more in the habit of people who played games versus now, where it's like if a game doesn't have autosave, it is very odd. So that's actually a good note. I will probably check that when I start Butterfly Soup 2 tonight and put a note in the newsletter.
Save.
That would be good to flag.
Save.
Yeah.
A lot.
Thank you for being the guinea pig on that.
Always. Yeah, but thrilled for the next week. Thrilled to play part 2.
Me too. So again, next week, we're going to be talking through Butterfly Soup 2. It's also available on itch.io. And I believe you can anticipate about 3 to 4 hours with it, about the same amount of time. Really quickly, just because this is a question I asked in the reflection portion of the newsletter, but this game talked a lot about parental expectations, and I think we're familiar with like your parental background, but I'm wondering, did that translate into like specific expectations for you? Like you mentioned being that lawful good kind of person.
Yeah.
Was that something that was like ingrained into you by your parents? Or
Yeah, I mean, I was raised in like a high control religion, high control household. So like being a rule follower, like having to be like the model child, like not partying, not doing anything bad, like that was absolutely part of how I was raised. The thing that I think is pretty insidious about that for me is like when you're raised in a high control religious environment, you are raised to completely distrust yourself and your own inner voice at all times. And so while I didn't get as much of the like academic pressures, like I was a pretty good student, but where I got a lot more of that type of engagement was around like the religious control and like not allowing you to like have like freedom of thought because your thoughts are inherently sinful. So that was kind of like how that played out in my upbringing, and things that like speaking about disappointing your parents and not living up to expectations. That's one that a box that I am not checking. So yeah, I mean, how about you? I mean, like, I know that you've shared similar things, but elements that have resonated for you or felt different for you?
yeah, I think what's interesting is we grew up in a performatively religious household for my elementary school years, where we went to Korean church, which was mostly you go to socialize and interact with the few other members of the community who are Korean at the church. But we were not actually religious. We went for the social aspect. I think for me, what did resonate was that element of getting good grades, doing well in school, making sure that like whatever my mom came here to set up, I was able to like reflect in some sort of way. And I think there was pressure in the sense that, if I got an A minus, my mom would, kind of jokingly, but kind of not say, but why not an A? Why not an A plus? But I think it was to a far less degree than what like these characters experienced. What was really interesting is I felt like with my mom, there was this tension that she was working through where she had like the standards that she grew up with in Korea, which were much stricter. And then seeing all of the expectations and standards of the US and like my friends' families, and me constantly, especially when I was in middle school and starting to like really see what other kids could do and what they could expect from their parents, going back and saying, well, these parents aren't doing that. These parents aren't doing that. And my mom, man, she was so strong, and honestly, to her credit, did a great job with me pushing her and like pushing her boundaries and expectations. And I think in some ways she was really flexible and allowed me to do things like stay out later. But also there were some ways where she did put her foot down, like sleepovers were actually not a thing for me for a long time. Like I think I went to my first sleepover in maybe like high school, and that was only because it was a cheerleading like squad bonding activity that I cried about that if I didn't go. Like, I think I said something like, I can't be on the squad if I don't go to this. So I really pressured her in. But like, there were certain things that she was just like, this is an American thing and we don't do that and we're not going to do it. And so I think there were certain expectations that she stuck to and certain ones that she tried to be flexible with. So being older now, I can look back and see that. But yeah, I did feel like there were some pressures growing up, but looking back, I think it was nice because she wasn't as strict, and so I don't necessarily feel bad about them, even though at the time I didn't feel great.
Yeah, totally. That makes tons of sense.
So, yeah.
Ugh. Well, you know, a game where you can see parts of your story, I think, is rare. And it's nice being able to feel a degree of that when you play this game. So
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited for Butterfly Soup too, so we'll be doing that next week.
yeah. Any other big housekeeping things? So we have Steam Next Fest as well. Is that right?
Yeah, next week
first days?
we'll be playing Steam Next Fest, so I don't know if we'll have enough demos to really share a ton of thoughts next week, but definitely in 2 weeks. So I'll be putting out a thread and a call for any feedback on demos that you all experienced. That'll happen in 2 weeks. But next week, we'll talk Summer Game Fest announcements.
Showcases. Yes.
Showcases, any cool reveals. Please feel free to share in the Discord or via email your favorite reveals. We'd love to share them on this pod. And we'll talk Butterfly Soup too.
Find yourself a friend that's willing to punch a car for you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.